This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Well, my name's Darin Williams, and we farm in Waverley, Kansas, on the east central side of the state of Kansas. We got into no-till and cover crops back in 2010 at the same time, and it just intrigued me to see if we could grow conventional or non-GMO soybeans and achieve the same yields as the Roundup Ready, 1 or 2s that were out at that time. So I started doing soybean plots under no-till conditions so I could get my own yield data, and I was putting Roundup Ready in with non-GMO seed. And then after several years of making a lot of phone calls and building a lot of relationships, we're finally at the point where we can market 3 to 4 different varieties that we sell at our seed facility, Natural Ag Solutions. And I've not seen the yield drag that a lot of people say is there. It's a different way of managing the crop and growing it, but it doesn't work unless you have healthy soil. Whether you're growing dicamba or genetically modified, you still have to have healthy soil to grow a crop, a good healthy crop. And it just seemed like a natural thing to do since we were learning no-till and cover crops at the same time to see, it was more out of a curiosity thing to see if we could do it. And now that we've gotten farther into it and we've seen the profitability that's there, it has helped, because there's some tough times with the grain prices and stuff the last 3 or 4 years, and capitalizing on anywhere from 50 to 75 cents over the futures price is a big deal on a substantial amount of acres, but it's not been without a lot of blood and sweat and a lot of determination to make it happen. So what we do for a cover crop is we plant rye or triticale or barley in the fall after we get our corn crop off, or if we're going to go back to beans after we harvest the soybeans, we no-till that in the fall. That grows up in the spring, and then we no-till our soybeans directly into that cover crop in the springtime. If we cannot, like this year where it's really wet and muddy and we couldn't get anything planted in the fall, we'll use oats in the springtime. We'll let those grow up and get right to that soft dough stage, and then we'll just no-till our beans right into that. And a lot of times we can do that without having to post-spray any chemical over the top. If we need to, we will, but we make it with a strategic strike, not a prolific use of the chemical. Do I have any trouble with dicamba drift? And that's a legitimate concern, that's a legitimate question. And my answer is I've had a small amount of damage. I've had 4 acres in the last 2 years of dicamba being used around me that got damaged. But I spend a lot of time letting my neighbors know what I'm growing. And most of them know I'm growing non-GMO crops, and they do a pretty good job of trying to be extra careful, around our crops. So it's not been a huge issue to me. But, I realize neighbors don't always get along, but we try to do our best to let neighbors know what we're doing, and landowners. I have a renter, that I rent from. I'm happy to share with them, or somebody across the road sees us spraying something. I'm happy to go right across the road and share with them what I'm actually doing in the field. I think communicating with people in more of a humble learning fashion than an arrogant, I'm going to do what I'm going to do because I'm the farmer and you're just going to have to live with it, fashion, it gets you a lot farther down the road. And I just think communicating is a big deal. I don't know everything. I'm still learning. We've been trying to do this for almost 8 to 9 years now. And that's how I got started, was going to different events across the country, different farms, trying to learn from what other producers were doing. I knew I couldn't exactly duplicate everything they're doing. You can't go to Gabe Brown's farm and say, okay, I'm going to do what Gabe Brown does right now, because he's put several years into getting there. You can take those principles, you can go back to your farm and start applicating them on your farm. I think it's important because the future of agriculture is in trouble. And if we don't get these younger people, what I consider the generation, the 30, 35-year-old people thinking different about how they're growing their crops, we're going to be in a big trouble, in another 10 or 15 years, overall financially and ecologically.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.